Today is exactly 2 years since my accident which put me in a wheelchair. So I'm going to talk about what's happened in those 2 years since 14th of June 2022, some of the specific spinal issues that I have to deal with, and just some general comments about risk, life and flying. So starting with the timeline, I woke up in a hospital in Annecy in 50 k's west of Mont Blanc. I'd been paragliding, but I don't remember what happened. But I had a spinal injury and I was pretty beaten up. It was actually probably pretty lucky to survive. And after 3 weeks, pretty much everything except the spinal injury was under control. And I was discharged to Brisbane. And I stayed another 3 weeks there, but their spinal waiting list was out of control. A bit of an overloaded hospital system, and luckily I have a New Zealand passport and they took care of me, so the rehab process there was awesome. If you want to find out more about this stuff, you should go to my spinal playlist, because a lot of the videos I don't put as public videos, they're unlisted, but if you can see them if you go to the playlist. And same with gliding, like I've got a dash cam which I'm recording a lot of footage, and I don't want to make everyone watch that kind of stuff, so if you are really interested you can find it on the gliding playlist. Anyway, so New Zealand, the rehab was great. After 3 months post-accident I was discharged and Mum picked me up, and we went camping, visited my uncle, did a bunch of stuff. We'd done some paddling in the pack raft before I even left the rehab. I did my first gliding flight with Chris Street, probably about 5 months post-accident, and that was great just to see that the headspace was still there. There was nothing really unexpected and I could deal with it all. And after 6 months I went back to Oz, stayed with Dobbo, who helped me out during the accident and helped organise my medevac back to Australia as well. And I've lived at their place in the past, but stayed there for 3 months and did some contract work at my old job, and that was a good proof of concept, just that everything was working as it could. The main difference is these days I just spend more time in the toilet. So I still wanted to go back to Europe, so after 9 months I was back in Europe, and shortly afterwards I was here at the gliding club. Actually hitchhiked here, it was pretty awesome, and had to go in the hand control aircraft, but they told me that the hardest thing would be to organise the class 2 medical. Everyone has to do that, but there's an extra step which basically can take up to a year for disabled people, which is just getting in and out of a glider under the supervision of the authorities. But there's a lot of bureaucratic hurdles, maddening processes that just don't make any sense that you have to deal with. But the club, who particularly one guy, Carlos, was awesome for that. But it still made me think about doing other sports instead that are a little less regulated. But coming back here, after 20 months, so it took 9 months to get the medical sorted, that came through, and now I'm back, and last week I went solo again, so I've been solo flying and hoping to get my full license this month. So that's the timeline. Now I'll talk about some spinal issues. So basically the obvious one is that I can't walk, but for me it's waist down. It's T12 level, which is the bottom of the thoracic part of the spine and the top part of the lumbar part of the spine, so it basically means waist down. And if you think about it, there's a few other things below your waist besides your legs. I have had some recovery of muscle function, so usually, it used to be that I was sitting at a table and my legs would move without me knowing or feeling or doing anything about it, and I just would lose my balance a bit, but I wouldn't actually know where my legs were. But these days, pushing my knees together is as strong, like its normal strength. And I think it took at least 6 months till that started coming back. And I've had a few other things around the hips and legs come back too. I've got other videos about that. Probably I've got some feeling that it's come back. It's still generally the same though, and it's a bit hard to tell. And the other thing that possibly doesn't have anything to do with the spinal injury, but maybe because I got COVID in the French hospital, is that I lost my sense of smell, and maybe that's coming back too. Food tastes less weird. There's a few things that tasted pretty weird. Either I'm getting used to it or I'm starting to get it back. So the other things, sexual function is one of those things where you kind of want a partner for that anyway, so you might not use it much. But I don't know why I'm talking about this. I'm not going to go into details there, but there's not much to talk about. Bladder is the most annoying one for me. I've got like an open bladder, so when I'm moving around or doing exercise, twisting my body, it leaks. And it seems like it's maybe got worse over the time, but possibly that's because I've got more motor function and I'm moving around, able to move around more. I had gone back to Australia a couple of months ago to try and sort that out, get in the really long waiting list. I reckon 18 months is pretty optimistic. But a couple of weeks ago, I tried something which is pretty life-changing, which is sticking in a catheter. So you put a plastic tube in there every time I want to pee. Normally it's temporary, but this one you leave it in there for a few weeks. It's a bit more of a drama. It's a high risk of getting urinary bladder infection, but I've never had one of those, and I'm hoping that I'm immune. And it's just changed my life. It's so much more convenient not having to leak every time you move around and do some exercise. So yeah, that's one of the things. Like, I don't really like having any specialized equipment. Like in the rehabilitation, they have these huge clankerous ugly things called commodes, which is basically like this wheelchair for a shower, and it goes over the toilet as well. And I got a much easier thing, which is like a raised seat that sits on top of the toilet. But even that I haven't used it in months, because it's just much easier to use a toilet and not have to bring these things around with you. So the less stuff you have to bring, the better. And yeah, this little plastic thing which you stick in there, it costs a couple of dollars. You leave it there for a few weeks, and it just makes your life so much easier. It could be a better option than the surgery, because the surgery that I had in the past, my knee and each eye got LASIK on, one and the other probably 10 years apart. They were about $3,000 each, and it's at least 10 times that for this surgery, which has a lot of risks as well. So maybe, I don't know, I'm on the waiting list, but I'll think about just maybe doing my own plumbing and save some money. Not just that, but it's it's all going to come back. So we'll just be patient. And the bowels are good enough. Like, I've had some problems on occasions, but that has just made me realize how lucky I am, because basically I don't have to do anything. It's a piece of cake. It's like a firm piece of cake. That's disgusting. That's why we only talk about the not walking thing. So life and risk and all that kind of stuff. I used to think that maybe it'd be a good move, because I used to travel around a lot with my paraglider. When you go to country, go to the hospital and check it out, so you know what you're in for if you get into trouble. And I think that most hospitals are mostly full of old people. And in the West, we're dying, where our ill health is from having too much rather than not enough. And yeah, so my point is that I definitely think paragliding is dangerous. Gliding is dangerous too, but at least you can put more speed on. You just push it on the stick if it seems a bit dodgy, if the air is dodgy or the terrain is close. And the paraglider, there's definitely things you can do to reduce the risk, but I talked about this before, but it's just dangerous. Sometimes stuff happens, and sometimes you're lucky, and sometimes you're not, and you don't know how many chances you're going to get. But I have seen a lot with the paraglider. It's been an amazing way to travel. It's a lot harder to get an aircraft sent from one country to another, especially if you only got 2 days' notice. And yeah, yeah, it's always up to the individual to decide how much risk they want to take. In the end, you're going to die or end up in a hospital anyway. You just have to think carefully about how you want to spend your time. And the other thing is, yeah, if you in really risky sports, you're probably going to lose some friends along the way. But that happens as you get old as well. Like some people are going to die before you, so it's tough. That's life. Have I talked about everything? Let's make a short video. Yeah, so as for what I'm going to do next, still a bit of, yeah, there's a lot of things I can do. I'm very lucky. I've got a lot of support from a lot of people. Spinal unit teaches you that however bad you got it, it could be worse. And there's so many things that we can do in this modern world, and we can't do all of them. I should focus on the things, not on the things that I can't do, but on the things that I can. So just kind of basic stuff, isn't it? All right. That'll do. See you next time.